Yowzers. Jesus is coming. All right. So, my name's Aaron, and this is the God a Minute channel. We have Brother Austin and Garrett coming on today talking about Israel and the how U.S. abstained from the vote with Gaza. And I wanted to bring these brothers on because they know more than I do. So here's the nutshell. We need to look at Israel as Israel is a bit of a prophetic timepiece for us. And every time in the history with U.S. and Israel, if U.S. has shown any type of how do we say this, non-favoritism towards Israel or didn't support them in any way, there's always been some sort of a natural disaster in some way, shape, or form, or something negative that went against the states. So the U.S. kind of had a vote of abstinence with Gaza today. And so we're going to have Austin and Garrett come on and talk to us about that. Maybe what I'll do is I'll show this video first. It's like a 40 second video of that very thing. And I'll just read a little article. And I think Garrett and Austin can see it at the same time as well. But we're going to share my screen here. And I think it's going to be this one. Yeah. No, I don't want to share that one. I want to share the video. This one. There you go. So let's make sure you can see that, and you can. And we'll make that bigger. And you can just see the vote here. Try and make it bigger.
Those against.
So here's U.S. So there's the abstention vote.
The result of the voting is as follows: 14 votes in favor, 0 votes against, 1 abstention. The draft resolution has been adopted as Resolution 2728, 2024.
Okay, so that's that. And we'll get rid of that, and we'll just read something really quick here. One more little thing that I just wanted to really bring up to your attention, and then we'll get our brothers on here. Sorry, I got to share my screen again. And that's right here. And so we have this just in from the U.S. I can't see this. Abstention from UN Security Council resolution on Gaza, and it goes on to say why they did it. But the thing that really hopped out to me was this paragraph near the end. We reiterate the need to accelerate the sustain and provision of humanitarian assistance through all available routes, land, sea, and air. We continue to discuss with partners a pathway to the establishment of a Palestinian state with real security guarantees for Israel to establish long-term peace and security. So this is from the U.S. Okay, abstention from the UN Security Council, and they want long-term peace and security. Long-term peace and security. Long-term peace and security. And we are going to share one more while we're here. And I'm going to show you this. This is my Bible app. It's called eSword. And what does the ESV version say for 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 3? While people are saying there is peace and security. So in that UN document that I just read, they're quoting scripture, peace and security. I find that fascinating. Of course, the King James says peace and safety, but safety and security, that word goes hand in hand with each other. So that's just a little introduction as to what this video is about, and we're going to bring on our brothers here, and we'll get going here. So here's Brother Austin, and here is Brother Garrett. How you guys doing?
Great. Thanks so much, Aaron.
Very nice, very nice. I'll put my headphones on so we don't have an echo. But guys, what's your thoughts on all this? Austin came into our Bible study this morning. Thank you for coming in, Austin, and saying what you did there. because I thought that was pretty cool. How do you say it again? Is it abstain or abstention or what?
Yeah, to abstain basically means we're not going to vote on it. We're not going to let our yes be yes or our no be no. We just don't want to be a part of it, is essentially what they did. Did we lose you there, Aaron?
I just switched over everything. Can you talk again?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, there you are. Yeah, so to abstain is essentially they don't want to be a part of the vote.
Let's try that
They're
again.
not going to do what the Bible says in James
Okay, I'm going to try something else. 1 second.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, let's try again.
All right. Can you hear me? All good?
Oh man, I just messed up all my audio. 1 sec.
That's okay.
Takes practice.
Okay, let's try again here. So I got my input and my headphone. I could try that too. Okay, let's try that. Can we
How's
say
that
hi?
for you? Hear us a little better?
I've lost
Anything
all
else?
form of hearing. Why can I not hear anything? Maybe it's just because of this. Okay, try again.
All right. Here we are. Hello.
This is
Your stream settings set to your headphones?
okay. Can you hear me?
We hear you,
We
yes.
can hear you.
Okay, so
yeah.
step 1, you can hear me. Okay, so step 2, I need to be able to hear you. Okay, let's try that.
All right. Hello, hello. Test, test, test.
My goodness. I'm so sorry, everybody. There we go. I think I heard something. I heard you.
Can you hear me
I heard
now?
typing. Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
there we go.
Sorry.
Awesome.
Sorry. My goodness. Okay. So say what you said there again, brother. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we were talking about abstention, and essentially the U.S. abstained from the UN vote this morning, which basically there's 3 options when they do these votes. You can either vote for, against, or you can abstain. And it really just kind of is this option that, I mean, honestly kind of goes against what the Bible says in James 5:12, which is to let your yes be yes and your no be no. And instead, we just said, we want peace and security in the region so bad that instead of, standing up and saying we need to get Hamas out of leadership in Israel, we're just going to say whatever it takes to get peace and security.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on all that, Garrett?
So, honestly, not voting is just as bad, in my opinion, as voting against Israel in this case. And I could go into a whole nother topic of why the United States specifically needs to support Israel, but that would be going into a whole other thing about Bob's recent video of the United States being the tabernacle over on End Times Dreams and Visions channel. We could talk about that another time, but I do
Rabbit
believe
holes.
that we need to support Israel, and the fact that we are not and just kind of letting this go is a big deal, and that might be what the eclipse is related to.
Yeah. So I find this very interesting that this eclipse that's coming on April 8th is 2 weeks away. And so there's this announcement of abstaining to really support Israel. Now, whether or not Israel is doing the right thing or not is besides the point. The main point is this is happening 2 weeks before this solar eclipse. It's apparently in the Talmud when you've got a lunar eclipse, which I think is today, actually. I think there is a lunar
Excuse me
eclipse
for
tonight.
just a sec, guys. I'm sorry. I just heard a loud bang outside.
That's okay. No problem, Asta.
Mhm.
Apparently, the lunar eclipses are for warning the is it the nation of Israel, and then the total solar eclipses are for warning Gentiles. Now, this is in the Talmud, I think. I don't know if you know anything about that, but I find that very interesting that this vote happened 2 weeks before the eclipse, and this eclipse is going over the Madrid Fault seismic zone, which if
Yeah.
that erupts, I mean, that would be the most devastating thing on the U.S.
I did see a map recently of what the United States would look like if that were to happen. Have you seen anything like this?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. Then good. We don't need to cover it. Everything okay, Os?
Yeah, sorry. I guess the neighbors are doing a little construction, and there's just a loud noise. I wasn't expecting it, but I wanted to go check and make sure my wife was all right. So,
Mhm.
Okay, good. Yeah. But by the way, these guys are both from Michigan, and they're brothers. So,
Yeah.
yeah, forgot to mention that.
brothers and brothers.
So, Austin, you had said, either you said it or you said that Garrett said it, that this really hasn't happened much in the history with U.S. Sort of taking that passive vote. Do you want to speak into that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Typically, when we have something to vote on, the U.S. tries to lead the charge, especially in the case of Israel. And in fact, if you were to go back and watch all these votes that have taken place, because this is not the first time that the UN has tried to bring a ceasefire about. They've been trying for 7 months now. So, I mean, when you think
The
about that, it's
the
like
U.S. has been trying to stop
no, the UN has been
the
trying
UN.
to
Okay.
bring a ceasefire to the war that's taking place over there right now. So since they've been trying to do that for so long, they've actually voted on this several times, and every
Mhm.
single time the U.S. Votes against the ceasefire and says, really what needs to happen here is Israel needs to be supported in eradicating terrorists from its region, which is great. But in recent days, we've seen a rise of anti-Semitism really across the world. If you're on different apps like TikTok or iFunny or even Facebook and Instagram, you'll see, a lot of these comments that are coming out that we really haven't heard people speak this way since probably before any of our lifetimes, like the early 40s, late 30s. And that's pretty shocking. And now the U.S., while they aren't voting against Israel at the moment, they've taken their hands off the situation, and I don't think that's a good idea.
Mm. And how about you, Garrett? What's your knowledge on the history of U.S. and Israel and how they've interacted in this way?
Well, I don't know much about the history as much as Austin does, but I do know about what's been building up to this moment in the last 7 or 8 months. The first time I noticed it was Tyler over on Generation 2434. He was talking about the SDG summit in September, and he was showing all over the website plastered just peace, security all over this place. And everyone was like, well, Israel needs to be involved. That was debatable at the time, right? And so then, as we know, last minute, their whole peace talks were injected into the SDG summit, and so there was a ceasefire, and then peace and security wrapped up at the SDG summit, and we just kind of waited, twiddled our thumbs. And then 2, 3 weeks later, the October 7th war broke out, and we thought, peace, insecurity, sudden destruction. Is this it? Is this what's happening here? And then a few more weeks went by, and Tyler also pointed out, hey, the UN is meeting on this thing. And we just saw like all these different believers in the chat just praise Jesus and all these different verses. It was so cool. And then after that meeting, see, the UN meets like every week, every 2 weeks or something like that, or sometimes every other day if it's an emergency meeting. But they started. I started to notice in December that they've been having Israel meetings, and so Austin and I tuned in, and what we were hearing was the whole world, every nation except for the United States and maybe one other small country. I don't remember. But they
There are
were
a
all
couple,
scolding
but real small
Israel.
ones.
Yeah, but they were scolding Israel, like, what you're doing is bad and you need to stop it. And Hamas is fine. Don't worry about them. And then the United States would pipe up and they'd be like, guys, we need to release the hostages and get some real peace and condemn Hamas. That was the U.S.'s main mission. Let's condemn Hamas. We need to wrap this up, right? And we were hearing throughout the meeting peace and security over and over. And so then at work, I subscribed to the channel on my account. And so at work, I would notice scrolling through, they're having a live meeting right now. Tune in and just spend the next 6 hours, cleaning the building while I am listening for something to stand out. And so I got to hear most countries' different opinions on this. And a couple others are just like, let's just wipe out the Jews. We're sick of it. Iran or Iraq, I mix those two up. But anyway, so the U.S. Was mainly the only country stopping any motions against Israel in particular, because they've talked multiple times. Let's just go in with arms and just send our own armies and just, put everybody on the ground and deal with this ourselves. I've heard that a few times. Late December, Joe Biden said, you've got until January 1st and we're pulling out. And then we started thinking about like, okay, what's called Hezbollah was talking about if the U.S. pulls out, they're going in. Israel said if Hezbollah is going in, we're bombing Damascus. And that's another verse. Damascus ceases to be a city. And then we didn't pull out. So just kind of sat there and waited. A couple more meetings went by, listened to those. Joe Biden right now is saying, hey, we're getting ready to leave again for whatever reason we waited. I don't really know too much on that. But in early March, late February, I was just like, okay, no one's listening to me. I'm making a video. And I go through the transcripts and I copy them. And I took account of how many times they said it. And the way I did it was with through the transcript on a Mac, it's Command F, peace and, because sometimes the transcript will hit return instead of space. And so it'll hit return. And so by getting peace and, I was able to get an accurate count. But you have to go all the way through because sometimes they would say peace and stability. So the accuracy of the transcript is not 100%. But the count that I got was 359 times across 25 meetings that they said peace and security. And why is that important? Because I've actually heard some people argue with me like, any government's going to say peace and security. Why does that matter? And then I was like, well, actually, if you tune into any other meeting, like Ukraine or Haiti or anything else, they don't say it.
Yeah, they aren't talking about it for Ukraine.
They only use that phrase for Israel, and that's what makes this a big deal. Now, recently, after I dropped the video, I asked Austin, can you look up on Blue Letter Bible a few of these words? And so it was, for when they shall say, there is peace and security. That was the phrase we were looking at.
Can I interrupt you for just a sec? For the
Go
people
ahead.
who don't know, Blue Letter Bible is a free online tool that is very similar to Aaron's sword tool. So it does basically the same kind of functions for anyone who didn't know.
Yeah. But so I wanted to know, is it just the quote, peace and security, or there is peace and security? Because right now there's not peace and security, and they've just been talking about it. They're calling for it. They're demanding it. And so does that mean sudden destruction is coming soon? Or there is peace and security? They're going to take credit for getting peace and security in the area, then sudden destruction after that. I'm not sure. Does peace have to actually be there first, or do they have to call for it first? And so when Austin looked it up, he got that it was an affirmation that there is peace and security. So that's why, I think that's why the translator chose there is peace and security. So there's a chance that destruction may not come until the peace and security actually arrives, or perhaps it will come, if we're just wrong, it will come as soon as they are finally done saying it. And now that they've adopted a new resolution, they might be done saying it.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a question of uh, really just a question of translation. Does there need to be peace and security, or are we just voting on it, talking about it? Is it being spoken aloud a lot? But the thing is, if it was just that it needed to be spoken aloud a lot, and it was in the headlines, and it was what they were talking about on the world stage, you would have thought the sudden destruction had come by now. I mean, it's up to God ultimately, but it's interesting because you're like, well, wait a second, like I'm not sure. They've been talking about this for 7 months now, so this is getting interesting. But the whole "there is peace and security" could be, and I'm not saying it is for sure, but I'm saying it could be that the peace and security has to be established first. It's just a matter of translation.
Well,
there it is in the ESV version here. The First Thessalonians 5 verse 3. I just wanted to just put it right in our face once again. I'll make it even bigger if I can. While people are saying there is peace and security, and this is the phrase that they've been using in all the documents. I just read that at the beginning of this live stream. Now this is the ESV version, but again, the security or safety kind of go hand in hand. But you know, I'm just showing you the ESV because that's the phrase they're using. But go ahead, Garrett.
So if you think about it, if we're in the context of this is peace security for the conflicts in Israel, and sudden destruction will be upon them. Well, the phrase peace and security, there is peace and security, only finally happened because the U.S. let go. And the sign of Jonah is coming. So because the U.S. was the one to let it go through, it might be a target. That might be the sudden destruction coming. Strange coincidence, if it is.
I do think that a couple things, two things worth noting that are slightly on topic, off topic.
Sure.
I do think U.S. has to be taken out of the way for this whole tribulation time to commence. And I think that is connected with how U.S. responds to Israel. And so Israel's the main centerpiece right now. And it seems like U.S.A. is sort of walking away. And actually, it reminds me of the Good Samaritan in a way that a lot of people just walked by and didn't do anything. And it was the guy that did something that ended up being the Good Samaritan. And so U.S. is just sort of, it seems like it looks from the outside looking in that they're kind of hands-off kind of situation. And so I think that's exactly what needs to happen before this whole tribulation starts, and I believe in a rapture before the tribulation, of course. But the other really interesting thing here is the red heifer. Apparently, it's supposed to be sacrificed this weekend, so that's a whole other subject of conversation. I just wanted to throw it out there. I might make a small video on that another time, but
which, by the way, I actually saw a video this morning from I think it was Prophecy Watchers had well, he doesn't consider himself a journalist, but he does enough work to be a journalist, so I consider him a journalist. But he actually has contacts both in Texas with the farmers who actually had the red heifers, and in Israel with those who are taking care of the red heifers currently. And what he said is that he did some digging and he found out that the CBS News report that came out recently showing the altar that they were going to sacrifice those red heifers on is actually a picture of an altar from like 25 years ago. So just so everyone's aware, things are definitely still moving in that direction. There is still a lot of fake news going on around there, so we just need to make sure that we're always willing to have an open mind and double check our sources, just because things get out like that.
So, are you saying that the altar that we've been seeing has been around for 30 years? Is that what you just said, or?
Yeah. So essentially, you saw the one with the really big ramp.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So essentially, the guy who is currently talking with excuse me, I guess farmer. I don't know what his technical term is, but I guess he's a farmer in Israel who's taking care of the cows. So he was talking to him about it, and he said, no, no, no. The Temple Mount does not, or the Temple Institute does not have an altar put together for this. You're thinking of something different that was used like 25 years ago. But I'll send you the link to the video. I'll have to go back and find it. I'll send it to your Discord channel so you have it. But it was interesting.
Cool. Where do you see this all going, guys, with the U.S. and Israel and all that? What do you think the end result's going to be this year or soon?
Well,
Did you also say that Biden is stepping back from all this? Go ahead, Garrett.
I did hear something about Biden stepping back. But I was reminded sometime earlier this week about the it will be like the days of Noah and it will be like the days of Lot. And well, I started thinking about the days of Lot a little bit differently. Because while the days of Noah is to wipe out the whole world and protect one family, the days of Lot, God had a target. He had a nation, a city that he was looking to wipe out. Just one. It wasn't the whole world. It was just one group of people he was ready to take out. And Abraham begged for mercy on those that were righteous. Can you please pull out the few that we find? And so if you think about it, it's not so much that Lot's family's in there and it needs to be pulled out. It's more that God was ready. He lost his patience and he was ready to deal with a judgment on this territory. And that's when the righteous people need pulled out. So thinking more like the days of Lot, the United States is closer to Sodom and Gomorrah in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's always this form of deliverance in the Old Testament. Noah taken out before destruction, Lot taken out before judgment. Even just with the story of Joseph, he goes to prison. He's in prison, but he eventually is taken out of prison, all through the power of God, of course. He reveals a dream to Pharaoh. I believe it's, I was talking about that this morning. Is it Jacob he escapes death from Esau because he sends his entourage before him and they kind of shake hands and hug and get over it. But he kind of escapes death in that moment. Abraham and Sarah. Abraham says, she's my sister, and he escapes that way. There's so many sorts of little tiny stories of escape throughout the whole Old Testament and the New. The whole Bible is a bunch of stories of escapes, and so some people say, well, where's the rapture? Well, then my question is, where's the word Bible in the word Bible? Like,
where's
just
the rapture not?
Just because the word Bible isn't in the Bible doesn't make it not a Bible, and just because the word rapture is not actually in the Bible doesn't mean there's no rapture. And so the escape plans are everywhere. And so yes, Revelation says, "Come out of her, my people." What does that mean? What does that imply? And so. Yeah, we've got this eclipse right around the corner. I've talked a lot about it, more so in February, but a month or two ago. And it seems to me that it's a sign of judgment. And it's going, apparently, this eclipse in 2024 is going over, it's going over a lot of places, which I've talked about. But somebody had mentioned, I didn't look into this, but it went over the farm of where the red heifers came from in Texas.
Oh, really?
I did hear that. Yeah.
Okay. So Garrett heard that, and Austin didn't. Okay, but I don't know. Austin, Texas, that works out. It might have been in Austin, Texas. I don't know. I have no clue. Somewhere in Texas.
I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah. I do have a thought about those heifers because it said that the Antichrist is supposed to interrupt. He's supposed to stop the sacrifice. In my mind, I'm thinking that means he's going to interrupt it. Right, it's going to be happening, maybe later that morning, and he's going to say, no, let's stop it. Or maybe they already got the cow cut in half, and then he's like, just throw it away. Because in my mind, I see that it sounds like once they sacrifice this heifer coming up, remember they got 4 left, debatably 3, but as far as we know on paper, there's 4. And so when they sacrifice this one, they're going to really want their temple up, and they will take whatever peace deal they have to make that work. And if it's for 7 years, that might mean, okay, they're going to build the temple and they're going to sacrifice the first heifer. But then the second heifer out of the 3 is going to be sacrificed in the 3.5-year mark, right at the half mark of that 7-year period. And the third one might be possibly planned for that 7th-year mark, but that's not going to happen because they're getting cut off at the 3.5-year mark. That's just an idea that the last 3 will be spread out through the tribulation in that sense, just because it seems that an upcoming 7-year deal being with the temple, it's all going to be centered around these heifers, because there's only ever been, before these ones, 9 recorded red heifer sacrifices since Moses. This is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Okay, speaking about that, you triggered some of my thoughts here on something
Go
else.
ahead.
Before I say that, somebody's asking me how to get in hold of me. The best way is Discord, and actually we're doing this live stream because for the first time Austin came into my study this morning and said, "Hey Aaron," I said, "Whoa, that's interesting what you just said. Want to do a live later?" And here we are. So Discord is my main source of communication. It's kind of like my coffee shop. It's where I hang out every morning, and I've got a wonderful team of people in there. It's an awesome family. So that's the best way. Yes, I have an email, but it's a bit of a junk mail, and it could get lost in the weeds there. So you brought up the heifer thing, 10 years, or 10. This is the 10th one since Moses. I need to correct one of my videos. I said that this total solar eclipse was the 9th one since the U.S. became a nation. And it's actually it's kind of, I think it's the 24th total eclipse since the Mayflower.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, so a brother Rick, he sent me a thing, and it's true. I double checked what he sent. I'm like, okay, darn it, I gotta bring this up at some point. And so I thought it was the 9th, but it wasn't the 9th. In correction, it was this. So the interesting thing about this is it's the 24th total solar eclipse since the Mayflower, which was somewhere in the 1600s. Was it 1690 or 1610 or 1611 or something like that? But it's interesting that it's the 24th in 2024. Now,
and
to be fair,
24 elders seated around Christ.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's true.
12 tribes of Israel and the 12 apostles, assuming that's what they are.
The 20. I mean, let's be honest. We were all going to talk about 24 elders in 2024. I wonder what we're going to talk about next year if we're here next year. You know what? Actually, everybody's going to go here next. If we're here next year, which I don't want to be here. Okay, I'm not saying that we are, and I don't want to be here. But if we are here next year, everybody's going to bring up the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Essene calendar, because the Essene calendar and the Dead Sea Scrolls suggest that Jesus died in 32 AD. And so if they think that Jesus died in 32 AD, Dead Sea Scrolls, Essene calendar, that kind of thing, then that would mean Second Coming 2032, you subtract 7 years, 2025. So that is where everybody will go. If we're here next year, it'll be Essene calendar, Essene calendar, Essene calendar, Dead Sea Scroll, Dead Sea Scroll, Dead Sea Scroll. And you can sort of work out the math with the prophecies in Daniel to kind of point to 32 a little bit as well. You can kind of support any year. You can support 30, 31, 32, 33 in many different ways. So I like 30 AD still as the date, but if we're here next year, we're going to have to be exploring the Dead Sea Scroll stuff.
The problem with our calendars, I think the Gentiles just have, even though the Catholic Church set it up, but it's clear the Gentiles were given a very separate way to measure time. And if you think about it, the Jews measure time with the moon, right? On the opposite side of the planet is the sun, and that's where we are. So um, we measure time with the sun, and so I I think that honestly, Gentiles have their own sets of numbers in some way, um, just like the Jews have their own sets of numbers. Like 7 is completion, 11 is judgment, and stuff like that. I don't know what those mysteries would be for Gentiles, but right now our best reference is the Jewish numbers. That's
You
just an
know,
idea. I don't know if there's anything to back that up.
and you know, talking about what Aaron was talking about a minute ago when he was saying that you know, we definitely we don't want to be here next year, but it's not because
Right.
we don't want to be here, you know, for the things that we have here and the responsibilities that we have here and the families and the blessings that we have here. This is actually something that God's been working on in my heart quite a bit over this last, oh goodness, 9, 10 months. Um, but instead, he's used the Watchman community and the Watchman mentality and just the things that are going on in this world to bring me to a place where I actually have more fire and passion for what we're doing here now. And you know, if I can just encourage people who are here now, well, that's all of us, but encourage everyone who is here to let this be your fuel to take you to the next level on the in the here and now. Because I mean, there was a time. Garrett, is it okay if I share some of uh, our testimony that kind of affects
Sure.
you as well?
That's fine.
Okay. Okay. So as everybody knows, Garrett is actually my brother. He's my biological brother, not just brother in Christ. Um, and in 2022, our mother passed away from cancer in June of 2022. And then in January 23, our dad passed away as well, uh, which was just crazy time for us. And then, you know, a few months later, my wife and I actually we lost our first pregnancy, and we were just in a place as a whole family where we had been shook and just rocked. And that's really where we started getting into the Watchman community. Is one day we were out in the barn working on my truck, and Garrett turned on a video. It was either by you or it was by Generation 2434. It was one of you guys. And we just played it over the loudspeakers, and all of a sudden you could just feel the presence of the Holy Spirit just start to enter and feel like, oh my goodness, there's like hope in this. And at first it became like a medicine hope, a medicine of like, we've just been through some crazy stuff and this is helping us to cope. Okay, and that was good. But later it actually evolved into, oh my goodness, I now have a whole new reason for being a Christian, not just to tell people about the ultimate good news, which is the good news of all time, but to tell people about the good news of our time, and which is that we're seeing signs, and that those signs have meaning, have biblical meaning, and that the prophecies that are that were spoken thousands of years ago are things that we can see in the world today. And sure, we'll debate as to whether or not they relate exactly. But at the end of the day, I think God's going to show himself in a big way. And I'm just really excited to be caught doing the Lord's work when he returns.
Hmm. Yeah, thanks for getting a little personal there. That's cool, Austin. Can you relate to some of that stuff there, Garrett, that Austin was saying?
Yeah, and I do want to clarify because I have been suggested by a pastor I talked to about this, and she was suggesting that we are only into this just because of our parents passing, when in reality, yes, it's much more fueled now, and that may have started it, but our dad was actually a pastor, and we talked eschatology with our parents for years. We were already in this mentality of like looking for things. There just wasn't anything to see.
We're reading
Um,
Revelations at 6.
yeah, like we didn't understand hardly anything. We were just like, um, Barack Obama is the Antichrist or something like that. Nothing
Not that we
meaningful
believe
because
that.
nothing meaningful because it was just like that guy's evil, so it must be him. But there wasn't anything for us to see yet because nothing was really happening. At least nothing that we knew about. I was in high school when the 2017 sign took place, and I had no idea that was even related. Not the eclipse. It was the birth, that Revelation 12 sign that took place in 2017. We were completely oblivious to that. We did not get on board to actual signs right in front of us until 2023. Yeah, and so I do relate to all of that, and I just wanted to clarify that we've been in this before, and um, it's not necessarily because of our parents passing, but it definitely was fueled by such.
Yeah, that's kind of how we got into this whole community, and then it grew from there.
Hmm.
Because God uses everything, and
Yeah.
that was just how He decided to work to help us get involved. But at the same time, once we started getting involved, I realized, oh my goodness, Jesus is a slippery slope. Because you start getting into Jesus and you're like, oh, nah, crap, now I'm an addict, like, and people are gonna notice that. And
Yeah.
there's times now where I'll be at work and I'm thinking to myself, I won't be able to live with myself for the rest of the day if I don't go and witness to this person. and it's interesting because uh, you think about people who do have other addictions and stuff, and it's like, oh, I can't live with myself until I get my fix. And after a while, Jesus kind of becomes your fix. And I've heard people talk about that. And being someone who was raised in the faith, I kind of rolled my eyes because it was like, yeah, I was raised in the faith. I know what you're talking about, but whatever. But then when Jesus actually started to become more real to me through watching, uh, I realized that, wow, I feel that too.
Hmm.
I was just reading the comments there when you were talking, and some people are like, "Can you direct me to some videos on the eclipse?" So I just pulled up this to share just real quickly, and this is YouTube's a little bit confusing. So there's a video area. I pretty much hang out in my video area and my live, like pretty much for the most part. I post a lot of videos at 9 a.m. EST, and so in the video section there, if you go back 2 months, you'll see I start talking about the eclipse. There's this one is 2024 eclipse, tell a story. Talk about the Madrid fault line here, um, among other videos, of course. But the eclipse videos, I talked about it here. How there was an X over the states right around 1811. Here's another video about the gap in time. I've got so many comments about people trying to correct me on this one. Let me clarify. So Monday, August 21st, 2017, if you add 6 years, 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 days, it gets you to the other total eclipse. Now you
Oh,
actually have to insert 6 years, 6 months, 6 days, 6 weeks into the calculator itself. You got to manually do that. If you don't do that, you won't get that. Then you're going to start to say that I'm wrong. But you got to insert that into the actual calculator. And of course, the eclipse of a lifetime, I was naming it there, and so this is where it really started to take off with the pins. This one, we've got Nineveh and Jonah, another Nineveh and Jonah. We got another one where I showed U.S. It looks like an ark, and then we have it looks like sign of Jonah with USA looks like a whale. tying it to Egypt, the Egypt story, some more recap videos. This is where I made a mistake. This should really be 24th. I should probably maybe make this video unlisted or something. But anyway, that's a video there. Here is Rapture, Harmony, Indiana. People are still putting stuff in the comments saying, "Hey, Aaron, did you know that there's a Rapture, Harmony, Indiana?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did that video a month ago." So I'm just doing this because a lot of people don't know that these videos exist. I did some videos relating to biblical stories, Ruth 4 verse 8, Joshua 4 verse 8, and how that relates to the eclipse. Here's another one right here. So just go back into the video section if you want to see some really neat connections with this eclipse. Here's another one, how when Babylon fell, shortly after, a few months after old Babylon fell, there was a total solar eclipse that went over the U.S. where current Babylon, Illinois is, and Babylon, New York is. I don't know, just a lot of cool things there. And if you go to the live area, similar thing. A few months ago, I started talking about the eclipses too. So if you go back about a month or two ago, you'll see a couple eclipse videos. So that's just a quick overview, just to remind people. And like I said, sometimes people DM me and they send me messages, and like, yes, it just shows me how much people really don't know what I've already presented, maybe especially like 2 months ago, you know. So yeah.
Would you like me to play the video that I dropped for anybody that is unsure what we're referencing? It's the 2-minute peace and security video.
Oh, sure. Yeah. You want to play that?
Sure. I
Yeah.
will.
And this is for you guys watching. Garrett made this. So I shouldn't say it. Well, I'm going to steal your thunder. Garrett made this. That's what brothers do. Garrett made this for you guys to share with everybody, and basically be a conversation starter. And you know, when they're saying, where is prophecy taking place in the real world from the Bible, you can actually share this video and have a conversation starter to begin to talk about these things. Not that we want people to be pressured by the end times to get saved, but there is pressure. So we don't want to make anybody uncomfortable, but at the same time, you're finding Jesus is the most important thing. So I guess Rapture Recap is Garrett's channel. If you guys want to check that out, you can go ahead, Garrett. I'll shut up now.
All right. So this is every nation's representative at the United Nations. I cut through and just pasted. Anytime someone said peace and security, and you might be a little thrown off, a lot of them are speaking different languages, so they have translators to interpret English for us. So you'll hear a lot of familiar voices.
It is a reminder of the solemn responsibility we carry to uphold peace and security across the world.
Maintaining international peace and security.
Peace and security.
No, peace and security.
In peace and security.
Peace and security.
In peace and security.
Peace and security.
Peace and security. Peace and security.
In international peace and security.
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 And peace and security. Peace and security.
Peace and security.
And peace and security.
Peace and security, and in full recognition.
Say this again. The United States stands ready to work with all member states that are genuinely committed to advancing peace and security.
With Jerusalem as the future capital of two states, living side by side in peace and security.
To allow both peoples to live in lasting peace and security.
Coexisting in peace and security with Israel.
National peace and security.
And for global peace and security.
Of international peace and security.
To create two states, Palestine and Israel, living side by side in peace and security.
Peace and security.
Peace and security. Both Israelis and Palestinians to live side by side in peace and security.
Peace and security. But the peace and security that this council is mandated to protect.
To restore peace and security in the region.
Peace and security in the region.
Peace and security.
Maintain international peace and security.
In peace and security.
Peace and security.
It's peace and security
Peace and security.
Peace and security.
Peace and security.
Peace and security.
Peace and security in the region.
In peace and security.
Peace and security.
Of international peace and security and jeopardizes it.
Peace and security.
The peace and security.
Peace and security.
Peace and security, and to stop that war.
Whoa. Yeah, that was a great video. Thanks for putting that together, Garrett, and sharing that. That's really cool.
Yeah, of course.
Did you send me that link yet, or no?
I can.
Yeah, make sure you do that at the end of it all. That's good. Thank you, brother.
Mm-hmm.
I did a video similar to that like 2 or 3 years ago, but that was way better than what I did. I went through
Final Cut Pro.
Yeah, that's way better than what I did. But man, pieces. If you hear that and you read the Bible, how can you skip over 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 3 and say, "Meh"? It just gets you out of your chair, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it does for me. Like, wow.
And it's just like you can't skip over 1 Thessalonians 4:17. Because people will say, well, rapture's not in the Bible. Well, 1 Thessalonians 4:17 says that we'll be caught up to meet him in the air, to meet the Lord in the air. Actually, let me go back. It says that we who are alive and remain will be caught up with them, referring to the dead people who rise to meet the Lord in the air. And what that is saying is that there is a generation of believing Christians who will not die. They will skip death. And I've said this, I've had this conversation with quite a few people lately, because I guess this Holy Spirit has just been kind of presenting the opportunities, and I've been taking them. But essentially, we will literally get to heaven someday and have people who lived in other generations, and they will come up to us and they say, we read about Enoch, and we read that he walked with the Lord and was no more. In fact, there were literally books about his lore. And, we didn't know whether or not it was true. Some believed it's true. Some believed it was just fiction. But either way, it was popular. It was lore. And then God made a whole generation of people who were a part of that. And I would like to say it's us because we see the signs. But I'm not going to claim for sure that it's us. But there's a more likely chance than any other time in history that it's us. And if that is the case, people will come up to us in heaven and talk about this stuff, and they'll say, tell us your story. And we will have the best answer ever, and that is simply, God just chose us. We're not special. He's special, and he picked us to be a part of this. And our whole existence is just to point back to him.
Amen. Yeah, I've said this a few times, and I'll say it again. Some people say, well, who are you? Do you think you're so special to be in the rapture? Look at all these people that have died in the past thousands of years ago. Who are you? The point is, I'm a nobody. I just happen to be born at this time, and God is in charge of everything, and he's in control of everything. And if you go to the story of Exodus, and here Moses and Aaron, they show up. It goes, okay, guys, we're here you guys are going to come out of Israel, or come out of Egypt with us. And one of the slaves at that time, an Israel slave, would have said, my father died before me, my grandfather died before me, my grandfather's father died before me, my grandfather's father's father's father died before me. I'm not going to get out of here. They all died, so that means I'm going to die. Well, buddy, not about you. It's time to let my people go. It's got nothing to do with you. You just happen to be alive in this moment. And so that's what Moses kind of would have said, not in the text of the Bible, but it's not about you. We are here on this planet Earth right around the 6,000th year of creation, in my perspective. Mm-hmm. And it's time to let my people go. It's time to go. And it's got nothing to do with me. It's got nothing to do with Austin and Garrett. It's got everything to do with Christ. And it's going to glorify him when he pulls the trigger. And he comes and blows that trumpet like you spoke about in 1 Thessalonians 4, 16 through 18, that area, right a few verses before the peace and security verse. and he's going to do it for his glory. And we'll have a story to talk about. We are so privileged, actually. We're so privileged. We're so lucky to be a part of this group. And so when you see this United Nations stuff come together, and they're saying peace and security, like Garrett just put together, and you see USA doing abstaining from the vote, which means they're kind of going neutral. They're kind of backing off a little bit. And you're seeing these red heifers, and you're seeing this eclipse, and you're seeing how either way you slice the cake, whether Jesus died in 30 AD or 31 or 32 or 33 or whatever it is, we are really, really close to 2,000 years since Christ came. It's enough to make you stand up out of your chair and get off your couch and go, let me open this Bible and start reading. And so it sounds like, I was talking with Austin earlier on, and it sounds like this last year or so, God has really been working on these gentlemen's hearts, and they are alive and well, and they're like, this is the real deal here. So nobody knows when Jesus is going to come, but looks like he's coming real soon, really soon. And sometimes we even suggest days. We even contemplate and consider the day that he might, because we're so close. We're in that area. So I remember I was so excited about Passover 2022. My favorite, just so everybody knows, is Passover. I love Passover as a rapture potential time and season. I'll start talking about that, I guess, pretty soon in video content, but because that's around the corner. But either way, we want to be spiritually ready, and that's by getting tight with Christ. That's my sign back there. Get tight with Christ, enter into relationship with him. And Austin was sharing too earlier that he kind of went from, if you want to share a little bit, Austin,
sure,
how you kind of transferred from just kind of going to church to kind of taking it a bit more seriously, if you want to speak on that.
Yeah, absolutely. After it's funny because a lot of people say that, well, not a lot of people, but a few people that I've talked to since the Spirit has really woke me up have made that suggestion, like Garrett was saying, that, well, you're finding yourself after a great loss in your family, and that's good for you, but what they don't realize is the personal battle that I went through. I don't know if anyone knows, and I'm not here to talk about the belief in the morals behind it, but in my state now, marijuana is legal. And when my parents died, I didn't go running to the Lord. I went running to what some people consider drugs. And I'm not saying that they are or aren't, because I don't want this to become a political discussion. But that's what I did. And I lived that way for years, actually, because it was from the time where my mom first got sick that I started turning to that, not from the time that she passed. So it was a while that I was struggling, and now at this point I've been clean for quite a while. I've been doing really well, and I had mentioned earlier that my wife and I had lost our first pregnancy. Well, now we're 5 weeks away from having our first child. And I know that our other child is in heaven waiting for us. So, it's one of those things where God definitely brought me back from a dark place that I was going. And when I was going through all that, I was still going to church. It was part of my routine. And it's just, I was asleep. And there's so many of us Christians who are just sleeping. That's why Aaron knows, because I've spoke to him on Discord, and anybody who's from some of the Discord channels that I participate in that's watching knows. But my name on there is We Won't All Sleep. And that's just because not only did God wake me up, but he woke me up to the fact that sleep is kind of something in the Bible that we talk about for believers who pass away. But it's they're asleep. But according to 1 Thessalonians 4:17, we won't all sleep. Some of us will have the opportunity to meet the Lord without that. And it's not anything, better or worse than anybody else's experience. It's just different. But it's different in a way that we'll be able to point back to the Lord and say, He does new things every day, and they're crazy. I think the thing that's so exciting about the coming rapture, though, is just that we've been talking about it for so long.
Yeah, well, Austin, thanks for sharing that, Austin. I remember just sort of listening to your story, and it sounded almost like you went from, I don't want to say a dead Christian, but a sleeping Christian, if you will, and just you kind of transitioned slowly in the past year or so with your life.
Yeah,
and
I would say so. I mean, I have believed my whole life. Like Garrett said, our dad was a pastor. And I've had different times where the Holy Spirit's been very active in my life. But it just goes to show you that if you aren't feeding your spirit, you can fall asleep.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing your testimony, Austin. I appreciate you showing up. And Garrett, I appreciate your time. And that video, again, that's a really cool video. And so here we are, just rounding this video up here. We've got U.S. just kind of walking away a little bit, abstaining from their vote. UN is, looks like I don't know if it's in motion now, the ceasefire. And historically, when the U.S. backs away from Israel, stuff happens to the U.S. Here we have the solar eclipse happening in 2 weeks, things that make you go, And it's going over places called Nineveh. It's going through a place called Little Egypt. There's a place called Moses. There's a place called Aaron. There's a place called Pharaoh Lake. There's a place called Jonah. There's a place called a bunch of Ninevehs. It went through Salem, 7 places called Salem. Jerusalem, peace. Salem means peace, shalom. And Jesus is the Prince of Peace that is going to be coming soon to rule his kingdom, the millennial kingdom. He's going to bring heaven to earth, so to speak. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. And we are waiting for that great day where we fly. And so, again, the final note to you is the things that are supposed to be happening are happening. Like things that the Bible said we're supposed to be looking for are happening. There are wars and rumors of wars. There's pestilence. There's earthquakes in diverse places. Matthew 24. And we see the rise of the Antichrist system right around the corner. I mean, it's kind of already there and ready to go. It's all there. It's all happening. And every time you're like, are we here? You wake up and like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, they're going to sacrifice a heifer. That's never happened in the last couple thousand years. Oh, okay, I guess we're in that zone. People are paying for things with the palm of their hand. I mean, man, all this digital technology. I mean, we're in the zone, guys. We're in the zone. We're not hundreds of years off or anything like that. We're right on the precipice.
Well, and that's why we just need to use that to fuel ourselves to live for where we are now, because we know we have the blessed hope for the future. My heart's in heaven, but my head is here. And I know that, we're going to go to heaven, and I know that the signs are here, so I'm excited. But I'm not going to let that be a reason to, I'm just going to go blow all my money, or I'm going to quit my job, or I'm going to, not that anybody would do that, but sometimes when we get in dark places, we think this way.
Yep.
And the best thing to do is to be caught doing the Lord's work when he comes back, whether that be for your family, for your occupation, for your friends, or just for yourself. Make sure that, you don't want to be the virgin that didn't have the oil in her lamp when the bridegroom returns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm reminded of one of the first things that Jesus said is his parents lost him, Joseph and Mary. They're like, oh, have you seen Jesus? Haven't seen him in a couple of days. No, I haven't seen him.
Couple days.
Yeah, a couple days. Like, oh yeah, oh no big deal. We just lost the Messiah. Just no big deal. I was listening actually to a comedian the other day, and he said, "Oh Father, oh forgiving, merciful Father of the universe, lost your son. Did you say he was the only begotten son?"
Anyway, you got another one by chance?
Yeah. I got a backup one. Anyway, so they lose the Messiah for a couple days. No big deal. Anyway, the point of what I'm saying here is, what are the first words that he said? He says, "Why do you seek me? Did you know that I must be about my Father's business?" And this is what he says as a child. I think he's 12 years old. I must be about my Father's business. And that's exactly what you're saying, Austin. We must be about my Father's business. We could all learn from this 12-year-old, and we can all be about our Father's business. And but you know what? Another thing that I say is keep on keeping on. And we still have to conduct our life. We can't not pay the internet bill and the mortgage and the rent and the whatever, the car bills and the insurance, and we still have to do life. And so we don't want to be standing on our front lawn expecting the rapture and ignoring life. So there's a balance in everything, and be about our Father's business, and keep on keeping on. So I think we'll end it there. So thank you so much, Austin and Garrett, for coming on. It was a pleasure and an honor. And thank you, everybody, for hanging out and chatting with us. We appreciate it. Jesus is coming soon. Are you ready? I hope you are. So go, Jesus, go, and we'll see you guys in the clouds.